changer pour Haïti. On a déjà tout prouvé. On est riche de cœur, on est riche, on est riche.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We are currently 6 days, 5 hours, and 5 minutes into the Artemis 2 mission. The crew on board the Orion spacecraft is currently awake but in an off-duty period. We recently had Dr. Brian Crucian join us to talk about the immune biomarker study flying as part of Artemis 2. Saliva can tell us a lot about astronaut health, so before, during, and after their trek around the moon, the Artemis 2 astronauts are collecting saliva samples. These samples will help scientists probe how the immune system reacts to deep space so that NASA can ensure that humans, rather than viruses, thrive in space as we venture to the moon, Mars, and beyond. Let's take a look to learn a bit more about this human research study.
What can Artemis 2 astronauts' saliva tell us? Saliva can tell us a lot about astronaut health. Just one tiny sample provides a window into what's happening into a crew member's body. When Artemis 2 flies around the moon, the crew will provide saliva samples for a study called immune biomarkers, which probes how the immune system reacts to deep space travel. This research builds on studies we've done before. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station collect liquid saliva samples with tiny oral swabs that roll around in their mouths. They also provide dry samples by blotting their saliva onto special paper that's carefully preserved at room temperature and brought back to Earth for analysis. Artemis missions won't have much onboard room for a refrigerator to store liquid samples. As a result, crew members will take dry samples periodically during their mission so that researchers can see how their immune system changes over time. NASA has been using saliva samples to help understand astronauts' health for decades. During the shuttle program, they discovered that dormant viruses in our bodies, including the one that causes shingles, can reawaken in space. Researchers are unsure why this happens, but think it has something to do with how the body responds to the extreme environment of space, including changes to circadian rhythms, stress, diet, radiation exposure, and weightlessness. By knowing more about how deep space travel affects the immune system, Artemis missions will help NASA ensure that humans, rather than viruses, thrive in space as we venture onward to the Red Planet and beyond.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. You're currently seeing a live view of the Orion spacecraft, which was named Integrity by its crew, as it makes its way back to Earth. Yesterday, on flight day 6, the crew spent the majority of their day in a lunar flyby observation period. And following that lunar flyby, the crew officially began their return journey back to Earth, and then earlier today they had their first return trajectory correction burn, or RTC-1. That burn taking place at 7:03 p.m. Central Time, 8:03 p.m. Eastern Time, to further fine-tune its trajectory to set it up for a re-entry and splashdown on Friday, April 10th. Over the past few hours, we've had a couple of human research experts join us to discuss the human research that's flying as part of Artemis 2. One of those is the immune biomarkers experiment, which is exploring how the immune system reacts to spaceflight. And we also had someone with us to speak about the Archer study, which stands for Artemis Research for Crew Health and Readiness, which is evaluating how crew members perform individually and as a team throughout the mission, including how easily they can move around within the confined space of their Orion spacecraft. The crew is also collecting a standardized set of measurements spanning multiple physiological systems to provide a comprehensive snapshot of how spaceflight affects the human body as part of a third study called Artemis 2 Standard Measures. Additionally, radiation sensors were placed inside the Orion spacecraft cells to collect additional information about radiation shielding functionality, And organ-on-a-chip devices, as part of the AVATAR study, containing astronaut cells, are studying how deep space travel affects humans at a cellular level.
Integrity Houston on OE1 for email status and SAW camera LEDs.
Go ahead, Houston.
Jeremy, 2 heads-up items. We finished the email sync, so the hands-off email in crew band no longer applies. Secondly, Reed had asked if we could turn off the SAW camera LEDs. There were no constraints against that, so we turned all 4 off.
Okay, those are great items for us. Appreciate it.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We are currently 6 days, 5 hours, and 39 minutes and counting into the Artemis II mission, following a liftoff from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida on Wednesday, April 1st at 5:35 p.m. Central, 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. The crew on board the Orion spacecraft, which includes NASA astronaut Reid Wiseman, serving as the commander, NASA astronaut
Integrity, I've got AGA readings for you.
We are ready to copy.
Okay, CO2 is 1.1, O2 is 27, cabin temperature is 74.8, pressure is 10.35, and I think we would be ready to go to the reduced fan settings if you could do that for us.
We will put that in work.
This is Artemis Mission Control. You just heard the crew, namely CSA, or Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, call down with some AGA readings. That stands for Anomaly Gas Analyzer, which is a portable laser-based instrument that detects trace contaminants and also provides updates on levels such as carbon dioxide in the cabin of the Orion spacecraft. They provide these readings periodically throughout the day and throughout the entirety of the mission. The console position here in Mission Control that monitors these readings is ECOM, which is the Emergency Environmental and Consumables Manager. And they are responsible for the internal thermal control systems, air and water supply, and purification systems, and they also manage emergency response. The crew on board the Orion spacecraft is currently winding down for their day, although they spent most of the day in an off-duty period, so they were free to do as they pleased. So the crew is wrapping up some exercise using that flywheel exercise device, and then they will be moving into their daily private medical conference with the medical teams on the ground, and these are daily conferences throughout the mission, and then they will move into their private flight director conference. So they also meet daily with the flight director in Mission Control to provide an update on vehicle status and answer any questions or comments they may have for the remainder of the mission, along with some of their upcoming activities. And then once those two private conferences are complete with the crew, they will be heading into their pre-sleep period. This is an approximately 2.5-hour block of time during which the crew typically eats their dinner, and they also prepare for sleep by completing any hygiene activities and winding down for the day. Today, during dinner, some of the options for the crew include tomato basil soup, lasagna with meat, Italian vegetables, chicken strips in salsa, and maple cream cookies. The Space Food Systems Laboratory here in Houston, Texas at NASA's Johnson Space Center is responsible for the preparation of the crew's food, not just on board the Orion spacecraft, but also for the International Space Station crews. Typically ahead of any mission, the crews will meet with the Space Food Systems Laboratory to go over their menus and options for their flight. There are several different ways that Space Food Systems Laboratory team will prepare the food. That includes freeze drying the food, where they will remove the water contents, and then on board the spacecraft, the crew is able to rehydrate it. And then there's also thermal stabilization, which are similar to military meals ready to eat. And then there are also some commercial off-the-shelf products that are flown as well. This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We are at a mission elapsed time of 6 days and 6 hours exactly. This image on your screen was captured by the Artemis 2 crew earlier today, and it shows our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, and its elegant spiral structure dominated by just 2 arms wrapping off the ends of a central bar of stars. Spanning more than 100,000 light years, Earth is located along one of the galaxy's spiral arms about halfway from the center. Again, the crew's been capturing a ton of imagery during their flight, and we will continue to upload it as we receive it. And then this image, also captured earlier today, shows the engines on the Orion spacecraft's service module, prominently featured. And it was taken from one of the cameras mounted on a solar array wing. And this image here, another one that was recently uploaded, was captured during the first shift of the lunar flyby observation period on flight day 6, which was yesterday. And the Artemis 2 crew was able to capture more than 2/3 of the moon, showcasing the intricate features of the near side. The 600-mile wide impact crater, known as the Oriental Basin, lies along the transition between the near and far sides and is sometimes partly visible from Earth. The round black spot northeast of the Oriental is Grimaldi Crater, known for its exceptionally dark mare lava floor and heavily degraded rim. And then finally, this image shows the lower half of the moon hanging suspended in time, and this photograph also captured during the lunar flyby observation period by the Artemis 2 crew. In the upper center of the photo is again the Oriental Basin, which is a prominent feature with a black patch of ancient lava in the center that punched through the moon's crust in an eruption billions of years ago. Again, the crew has been capturing some outstanding imagery. As that imagery continues to be downlinked, we are continuing to process through that imagery alongside our science teams, and we'll continue to upload it and share it with the world.
and I'm sure you know, but we're just running a little long on this PMC, and we'll be ready for the flight director conference in probably 5 to 10 minutes.
Copy. Yep, no rush. We are ready when you are.
This is Artemis Mission Control. You just heard a call down from the crew on board the Orion spacecraft. They were referencing a PMC, which stands for Private Medical Conference. All 4 crew members are currently participating in that private medical conference. Again, these are standard conferences with the crew's medical teams on the ground that take place towards the end of every flight day.
Houston, we're configuring for OE2. We'll see the flight directors over there.
We are there and ready.
This is Artemis Mission Control. Another call down from the crew on board the Orion spacecraft, noting that they had wrapped up their private medical conference and were now heading into their private flight director conference with the flight director here in Mission Control Houston. Again, this is another daily private conference that takes place typically at the end of every flight day. and it allows the crew to discuss the spacecraft status and any other items directly with the flight director to close out the day. You heard them reference OE2. That is in reference to the communication loops that come down from the spacecraft. Specifically, it stands for Orion to Earth.
Integrity Houston for good night number 1.
We're listening to some nice soothing music up here, and we are ready for good night number 1.
Love to hear it. Just a couple of things. We did normalize OE2, so that's back in nominal config. And the next, letting you know, we did adjust the cabin fan speed. You probably felt it. And we took the ARS back to awake. We did have one question just for data collection purposes. When you've asked us for the fan speed changes, we know originally it was for temperature. Since then, have airflow or noise also factored into these requests?
I would say both. And this cabin is, I mean, there's probably a lot of meetings going on, but this cabin is much more comfortable with these fan settings, both from the way it feels like it distributes air more evenly because it's not just a windstorm on one side and quiet synapse on the other. It just feels more comfortable across. The temperature feels more consistent across the cabin. It is much more comfortable to live at this fan speed. So overall, for us, this is a far preferable configuration.
Copy. Thanks for the additional data. And then we had a follow-on question for ECOM, which is the increased fan speed that you requested following exercise this morning. Is that something that you'd like us to put in place for all exercise going forward?
I would say just increase the fan speed for exercise, and then just run the nominal, and then we'll let you know. But we did need a little more circulation this morning.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the feedback. We'll implement that going forward. And with that, I will bid you good night, at least the first time.
Thank you very much, and just confirm secondary note is go for the night.
Affirm, go to dump for the night.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tess. We'll talk to you in a couple.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We're currently 6 days, 6 hours and 28 minutes into the Artemis 2 mission. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see a view of the Orion spacecraft, this view coming to you from one of the solar array wing cameras. And then on the right-hand side, that view is of the Artemis Real-Time Orbit website, or ARO, which is available at nasa.gov/track-Artemis and provides updates on the spacecraft's velocity as well as its distance from the Earth and from the Moon. So currently the Orion spacecraft and its crew are about 63,000 miles away from the Moon and about 217,000 miles away from Earth as they continue their return journey back home to planet Earth. The crew was calling down ahead of entering their pre-sleep period. They were speaking with the CAPCOM, or capsule communicator, here in Mission Control, who for the Orbit 2 shift is Tess Caswell. They were referencing some of the cabin fans and the speed of those cabin fans, specifically around some of their exercise period. Those cabin fans are managed by the ECOM position here in Mission Control, which stands for the Emergency Environmental and Consumables Manager, and they are responsible for internal thermal control systems as well as air and water supply and purification systems. And now that the crew has also completed their exercise for the day, again, they use a device on the Orion spacecraft called the flywheel, which is about the size of an extra large shoebox and operates similar to a rowing machine and allows for different types of exercise, including aerobics and resistive exercise. So now that the crew has completed that exercise, the MPO, or Mechanical and Power Officer here in Mission Control Houston, is able to move the solar array wings from the SAW park position, which they were in for that exercise period. The Mechanical and Power Officer here in Mission Control is responsible for the electrical power generation, as well as the solar arrays and the array rotation mechanisms and power distribution systems on the Orion spacecraft. This position also manages crew hatch, docking mechanisms, vehicle pyrotechnic devices, parachutes, and water uprighting systems. This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. The crew on board the Orion spacecraft, named Integrity by its crew, are currently in their pre-sleep period. They enter this pre-sleep period about half an hour ago, and this pre-sleep period typically lasts about 2.5 hours. The crew is expected to enter their sleep period in about 1 hour and 45 minutes, and that will close out flight day 7. The majority of today has been spent in a crew off-duty period, so the crew has had a chance to have time to themselves, especially following yesterday's busy lunar flyby observation period. The crew, though, did have the opportunity early in the day to speak directly with the science team here in Mission Control about their post-lunar flyby observations. This crew conference allowed the crew to provide those observations and also allowed the science team an opportunity to ask additional questions about some of the imagery and data that's been downlinked from that observation period. Again, all of this taking place not long after the lunar flyby itself, so that the crew still had it fresh and top of mind. Following that post-lunar flyby crew conference, the crew was again mostly in an off-duty state. They did have the opportunity to do their daily exercise using the flywheel device, and then they moved into their midday meal before preparing for the return trajectory correction burn. That is the first of 3 planned return trajectory correction burns to further fine-tune the trajectory and the path of the Orion spacecraft as it makes its way back to Earth ahead of an entry and splashdown on Friday, April 10th. Coming up tomorrow on flight day 8, the crew will complete an OIG DFTO, and that stands for Orion Crew Survival System Suit Orthostatic Intolerance Garment Developmental Flight Test Objective. During this objective, the crew will assist each other with body circumference measurements and evaluate the donning, wearing, and doffing process for the orthostatic intolerance garment. And they also complete a questionnaire detailing the ease of donning and doffing, which is the putting on and taking off, and how long that process takes and the overall fit of that garment. Also on the schedule for flight day 8 is the second part of a manual piloting developmental flight test objective. They did complete the first part of this objective earlier in the mission when they were able to compare 6 degrees of freedom and 3 degrees of freedom. And the 6 degrees of freedom refers to the 6 ways a spacecraft moves. And there are 3 translational degrees of freedom and 3 rotational degrees of freedom. But tomorrow, during the second part of this manual piloting developmental flight test objective, the crew will center a target in the window field of view and manually pilot to the bias tail to sun attitude. And this manual piloting flight test objective is designed to test the handling qualities and guidance, navigation, and control systems of the Orion spacecraft. And by manually piloting the capsule to a bias tail to sun attitude, it allows them to manage the thermal constraints and power generation of the spacecraft.
Houston Integrity for PCD-1.
Go ahead.
you all remoted into that? I just got a micro SD drive failure, and then I saw a bunch of windows open and then close on my PCD like someone was trying to troubleshoot it. I just want to go hands off if you need it. Otherwise, I'll just assume it was a hiccup, and maybe I need to reseat that micro SD card again.
And Reed, we were not on that PCD. We are good with your plan to reseat that SD card, and if you have any other issues, we are standing by to help.
Okay, great. I know everybody already knows my password, so my PIN code, so that's great. That was awesome. Okay, thanks a lot, Tessa. We'll call you in a couple.
All sounds good. Good night, number 2.
This is Artemis Mission Control. That communication there between NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman, who is the commander of the Artemis II mission on board the Orion spacecraft, and the Capcom, or capsule communicator here in Mission Control, who is currently Tess Caswell. They were discussing one of the PCDs that refers to the portable computing devices, basically the tablets that the crew uses throughout the mission to monitor procedures, timelines, etc. And those devices are managed by the CDH position here at Mission Control, which refers to the Command and Data Handling Console, and they monitor the various computer and avionics subsystems and ensure the health and functionality of the spacecraft's electronic equipment. This is Artemis Mission Control here in Houston, Texas. You're currently seeing a live view from the Orion spacecraft as it continues its return journey back home to Earth with that splashdown targeted for Friday, April 10th. These views are coming to you from one of the 4 solar array wing cameras on board the Orion spacecraft. Throughout the mission, we've been providing live views, and currently the Orion spacecraft is connected to what is known as the Deep Space Network, which is NASA's international array of giant radio antennas that support interplanetary spacecraft missions. And as part of NASA's Artemis II mission, throughout the mission, astronaut voice, images, video, and vital mission data have to transverse hundreds of thousands of miles carried on signals from NASA's powerful communication system, such as the Deep Space Network. Let's go ahead and learn a little bit more.
NASA's Artemis II will send 4 astronauts around the moon, preparing humanity for a long-term lunar presence and future journeys to Mars. Enabling communication and navigation for this test flight are NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network. With antennas around the world and a fleet of relay satellites, the networks will deliver vital data to and from Earth through all phases of the mission. The networks are seamlessly integrated at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where Mission Control coordinates the network handovers. These transfers represent a delicate dance between the 2 networks, exchanging support as the mission shoots toward the moon. On the launch pad and during their early orbit phases, NASA's Orion spacecraft and Space Launch System rocket will rely on communications and tracking services from the Near Space Network. After its translunar injection burn, the Deep Space Network's global array of antennas will serve as Orion's primary communication support during lunar orbit. As the mission journeys farther into space and away from Earth, signal strength weakens and bandwidth is conserved for crew communications. The astronauts will have a near constant connection to Earth, ensuring their safety on a journey farther into space than ever before. We say near constant because as Orion goes behind the moon, a planned loss in communications will occur. The Deep Space Network will be standing by to reacquire the signal as Orion reappears. The Artemis II mission also provides an opportunity to test new capabilities. Using laser links, NASA will periodically transmit Orion data to showcase the benefits laser communications could have for future human spaceflight missions. The data from Orion, sent by radio signals or laser links, is massive. The mission is gathering images, data, and video, while also generating details about mission health and crew voice files. All of that data gets processed here on Earth, where systems compress it for efficiency. In the future, we'll upgrade these systems on Earth so that image and video clarity improve with each moon mission. With the Artemis II test flight, we're evaluating the communications infrastructure that will help carry us into the future as we explore the moon and journey forward to Mars.
And this is Mission Control Houston. Again, that video providing a little bit more information about some of the communication networks that are used throughout the mission. Again, the Orion spacecraft currently transmitting data and communications through what is known as the Deep Space Network, as the Orion spacecraft and its crew are currently about 216,000 miles away from the Earth. And following yesterday's lunar flyby, their distance from the moon is increasing, so they're now about 64,000 miles away from the moon.
Integrity Houston for a quid check.
Yeah, go ahead, Tess.
Hey, Reed, we are seeing one of 4 temperature sensors diverge on the SM ox helium temperature sensors. We think this is a sensor issue. We've got 3 good ones. The 4th one is just walking off. But the caution warning associated with that would potentially enunciate in about 2 hours at the current sensor walk-off rate. We think the quid is suppressed. We commanded it that way, but our tool is showing it enabled. So I wanted to give you the quid so that you can verify that it's suppressed so we don't ring an erroneous caution warning on you in about 2 hours.
I think we checked this one the other day, but go ahead with the quid. I'm ready.
All right, that's 2131.
2131 on board is for message caution prop SM ox helium tank T4 high. The command state is suppressed. Threshold 1 is plus 89.6.
Fantastic. Thanks for checking, and I'm glad we're not going to wake you up with that one.
Yeah, no problem. And just to be sure, this has been like a linear walk-off, right? Because T4 has been trending up the entire mission, but no changes, correct? Just a constant trend upward?
Checking.
No, that's okay. I'm pretty sure we're familiar with this one, so no need.
Yeah, and Reed, your memory is good. We had previously talked about this one, but because it was erratic, and now we're seeing a linear trend, so we're just protecting for that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good night, number 3.
I think we might have hit the limit tonight. We'll see. Time will tell. Good night. Yes.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. Some additional communication there between the crew on board the Orion spacecraft and the Capcom or capsule communicator here in Mission Control. They were referencing a caution and warning identification number. They wanted to make sure that it was suppressed, as it was going to be an erroneous caution that could possibly be triggered while the crew was asleep in the next couple of hours. These were related to some temperature sensors on some helium tanks related to the propulsion system. And those sensors being managed by the propulsion officer here in Mission Control, who monitors vehicle propellants to complete burns required for mission objectives and trajectory purposes. The crew currently on board the Orion spacecraft, which you can see a live view of that spacecraft there on your screen as it makes its return journey back home to Earth following a lunar flyby yesterday, April 6th. The crew is currently in a pre-sleep period. They're about halfway through that pre-sleep period. And during that period, they have the opportunity to eat dinner and complete any hygiene activities, but of course there's still been some periodic calls down here to Mission Control. The crew includes NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman, who is serving as the Artemis II commander. Reed is originally from Baltimore, Maryland. He's previously been to space once before when he served as a flight engineer for Expedition 41 aboard the International Space Station from May through November of 2014. And during that 165-day mission, Reed and his crewmates completed more than 300 science experiments in areas such as human physiology, medicine, physical science, earth science, and astrophysics. During that mission, the crew set a milestone for station science by completing a record 82 research hours in a single week. He also previously served as chief of NASA's astronaut office from December 2020 to November 2022. Serving as the Artemis II pilot is NASA astronaut Victor Glover. Victor was selected by NASA as an astronaut in 2013. He's originally from California, and at the time of his selection, he was serving as a legislative fellow in the United States Senate. His first trip to space was in November 2020 when he launched as a pilot of NASA's SpaceX Crew 1 mission, which was the first operational mission of NASA's Commercial Crew program, which resumed launching American rockets from American soil to the International Space Station. Victor is a U.S. Navy captain and naval aviator who served as a test pilot, racking up more than 3,500 flight hours in more than 40 different aircraft. Serving as one of the 2 mission specialists is NASA astronaut Christina Cook, who is a native of Grand Rapids, Michigan. She was selected to the NASA Astronaut Corps in 2013, which was, of course, the same astronaut candidate class as Victor Glover. She served as a flight engineer on the International Space Station from March 2019 to February 2020. And during that time, Christina Cook set a record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman with a total of 328 consecutive days in space. She also participated in the first ever all-female spacewalk, and before becoming an astronaut, Christina helped build space science instruments and led scientific fieldwork in some of the most remote environments on the planet. And then to round it all out is CSA, or Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, who is also serving as a mission specialist on the Artemis II mission. Originally from London, Ontario, Canada, Jeremy was selected as an astronaut in 2009, and after his selection, he worked as a CAPCOM, or capsule communicator, here in NASA's Mission Control Center in Houston. He also participated in training exercises, such as living on the ocean floor off the coast of Florida to simulate deep space exploration for 7 days, and in 2017, he became the first Canadian to lead a NASA astronaut class. These 4 astronauts make up the Artemis II crew. The Artemis II crew launched on Wednesday, April 1st at 5:35 p.m. Central, 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. They completed their lunar flyby on Flight Day 6, which was Monday, April 6th, and now they are on the return journey of their mission. That mission expected to splash down off the coast of California on Friday, April 10th. The crew's mission patch features is a prominent symbol of the Artemis II mission, and when they explained the patch's symbolism when they revealed it to the world last year, they said that the Artemis II test flight begins when a mighty team launches the first crew of the Artemis generation. This patch designates the mission as all, signifying not only the second major flight of the Artemis campaign, but also an endeavor of discovery that seeks to explore for all and by all. Framed in Apollo 8's famous Earthrise photo, the scene of the Earth and the Moon represents the dual nature of human spaceflight, both equally and compelling. The Moon represents our exploration destination, focused on discovery of the unknown. The Earth represents home, focused on the perspective we gain when we look back at our shared planet and learn what it is to be uniquely human. The orbit around Earth highlights the ongoing exploration missions that have enabled Artemis to set sights on a long-term presence on the Moon and soon Mars. And now on your screen you can see a live look of the Orion spacecraft. Of course, those 4 astronauts currently aboard as part of the Artemis II mission. The Artemis II crew members named their Orion spacecraft Integrity during a news conference this past fall on September 24th. The name Integrity embodies the foundation of trust, respect, candor, and humility across the crew and the many engineers, technicians, scientists, planners, and dreamers required for mission success. The name is also a nod to the extensive integrated effort from the more than 300,000 spacecraft components to the thousands of people across the world that must come together to venture to the moon and back, inspire the world, and set a course for a long-term presence at the moon. Integrity is also rooted in a shared core value of NASA, the agency's astronaut office, and the Canadian Space Agency. This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We are currently 6 days, 7 hours, and 39 minutes into the Artemis 2 mission. A few moments ago, you probably just saw the Orion spacecraft make a small attitude maneuver. These attitude maneuvers are managed by the GNC position, which is the Guidance, Navigation, and Control Officer. They are responsible for managing the inertial measuring units, the global positioning system receivers, along with barometric altimeters, and the position, state, and attitude health of the Orion spacecraft. And of course, they are responsible for commanding those attitude maneuvers.